Hi, I am Justine here. Welcome to Module 1, Session 3, the opening hook and the beginning chapter. In this session, you will learn how to write a first chapter that hooks and sustains the reader. You learn how to avoid a sagging middle and how to craft a compelling climax. The first chapter sets the mood and pace of the story. So you want to avoid detailed descriptions of surroundings, setting, and characters because big chunks of narrative can be boring. You want to hit the page running, hook the reader, and draw him or her into the story. You need to give the story the best start in life. Tips on writing the opening hook. Open with a catastrophe. Tell the reader about the setting. Entice the reader to open next page. Raise a compelling question. Introduce the conflict. Let's start with number 1. Open with a catastrophe. For example, show the protagonist reacting to a situation. For example, the main character finds a dead body in her garden. The event sparks the story into motion, and events unfold and advance forward. It has to be something that disturbs the status quo, that disturbs the normal sequence of life and changes it for all time. Number 2, tell the reader about the setting. Tell the reader about the time when the story is taking place. Is it the 19th century? Is it 1920? Or is it 2020? And where is the story taking place? Is it on top of a mountain? Is it in a village? Is it in the city? Is it in a restaurant? You decide where your story is going to start. The trick is not to dump it all on the page, but instead subtly weave in the facts slowly. Number 3, entice the reader to open the next page. You do that by dropping hints or surprise the reader with something unusual. For example, a character could say, "Oh, they are killing off a large number of the population using a dangerous drug." That will make the reader curious and force her to open the page and continue reading. Number 4, raise a compelling question. You can do that by withholding information. For example, in the last example, whereby they want to kill off a large amount of people. That example creates a lot of curiosity and a lot of questions in the mind of the reader. She'll be asking who, why, and which drug is that? So these are the questions that you'll be answering as the story unfolds. And this makes the reader very curious to continue reading to find those answers. And number 5, introduce the conflict. Introduce a worthy antagonist with wisdom, who has a lot of wisdom, and he's skilled and he's charming at the same time, and is capable of defeating the protagonist. This is your exercise. Write it down. Write a one-page beginning chapter using the above 5 tips. Use these tips to write a one-page beginning of your chapter number 1. The 5 points will make your beginning of the story more engaging and realistic. The idea is to get the reader invested in the story. Middle build. Beginning writers usually experience difficulty writing the middle. Usually sagging middles are generally the result of a weak plot, You don't want the middle where readers flip pages without reading them or bore the readers in any way. So, go back to your outline and revise. Think in terms of rising action, climax, crisis, breaking point, falling action, and ending resolution. In rising action, you need to increase the tension of the story as it advances, and the protagonist should be facing increasing danger and obstacles. The main character keeps pushing forward, experiencing more setbacks and with occasional small victories. The trick is to increase the tension. Climax, crisis, breaking point. The protagonist and antagonist clash in a showdown, a breaking moment, a point of no return. This is the decisive moment of the action in the story. You need to make it dramatic and authentic. Falling action. Here you deal with the consequences of the action. You begin tying up the loose ends. Ending resolution. The conflict is over, tie up all the loose ends and highlight what has changed between the beginning of the plot and the ending. Exercise. Use the above 4 tips to outline or plot the middle and climax. What will the protagonist do? How will the antagonist respond? What ideas of suspense, thriller, mystery will you use? Use these 4 points to write your middle and climax. The real story is not the plot, but how the characters unfold by it. Vena Bonta. I always have a realistic plot outline, but I like to leave some things to be decided while I write, says J.K. Rowling. Now your task is to write the first chapter. Remember to entertain and surprise the reader. Good luck.